Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Now I should have covered this issue probably last week because it was obvious that this is a big problem, and as I was away for the weekend I actually saw more and more content creators cover this. And we can talk specifically about the compensation stopping with the problem still persisting in the game. And before we get any further, I feel obligated to mention the fact that this is nearly 1 year now that we have had these issues. And I'm sorry, no matter how much you want to defend Kabam, timelines such as this in a mobile game, in my opinion, is unacceptable and definitely shows Kabam's lack of commitment of resources or prioritizing this as a major issue of the game, or ineptitude. You can pick and choose which one you want, but it is not normal that the input issue in a game that's based around timely inputs, as in fighting, has lasted an entire year. It's fairly miraculous that the game has survived it, to be honest. But we need to acknowledge the fact that the timeline of 1 year is not normal, should not be accepted, and should not be forgotten. Because anything that happens right now is being exacerbated by the fact that Kabam has been unable to fix it for an entire year. So that automatically gives extra weight to kind of any grievance or negative sentiments towards Kabam in regards of this issue. Now, I'm not always trying to kind of like jump on everybody, let's poop on Kabam train at all. And when they do things exceptionally well, I'm fully open to praising them for that. And I do believe in the idea of, inspecting each issue individually. But again, we're not able to run away from the fact that this problem started a year ago. I bet that the amount of people that Kabam has working in their offices could easily develop a new game within 1 year. Or maybe not these people, because these people can't fix this one. But I'm saying professionals in the industry, that many of them could develop a new game from scratch, let alone fix an input. So I do think that there likely has been very minimal amount of funding or employees allocated to this issue, which is kind of, again, a bit scary. All that being set aside, we need to talk specifically about the compensation ending, yet game problems being as bad or in many cases worse than they previously were. So obviously we do need to acknowledge this compensation started in the first place as Kabam, trying to offset the increase in frustration and problems playing competitive game modes as Alliance War, as Alliance Quest. And there also needs to be very kind of like strong acknowledgement of the group of people who have been able to play this game more competitively with less kind of time or monetary investment because of it, because there are definitely entire alliances that have been, well, effectively punching above their weight just because they do not have to cover any cost related to Alliance Wars and Alliance Quest, and that used to be a fairly big differentiating factor in alliances placing in Plat 3 or Plat 1, for instance, or even pushing Masters, or playing which Alliance Quest map, because if you do not have to worry about your item usage, and if you do not have to spend units and or money to cover those items or get the boosts and so on and so forth, then it immediately becomes a lot easier for everybody to compete. Now, there are pluses and downsides to this, and, if this game would be run by different people, maybe they could even consider, that as a positive side effect of this entire thing, and they could appropriately react to it by adjusting their either game economy or, continuing a weekly package of Alliance items in perpetuity, regardless whether there are input issues or not, if they just want to make these game modes more competitive. I don't think that it is what Kabam is going to do, and I do not either believe that this game is built for that or that is going to happen. I would be interested to see it, because right now Alliance War in effect has been more interesting and more competitive than it was previously for a year and a half because of these compensation packages. But let's not forget that even if the game is fixed perfectly and this compensation goes away, there will be a lot of players who are so used to this compensation that they will feel that they deserve it and will find a reason to demand it back, basically is what I'm saying. And obviously, I do not support that viewpoint. I do think once Kabam actually fixes the game, they are fully within, their right to take the compensation away, obviously. And then again, there's going to be more of a resorting of alliance capabilities based on their actual commitment to the game rather than this subsidized amount of resources allowing them to compete in higher levels than they should. But the fact of the matter right here, right now, is that the game is not better. It really is not. For me, the things that I have been experiencing recently is absolute failure of parry at times. And it's not against every champion, it's not against always. It typically does seem to involve either champions with weapons or champions that are flying or something like that, where my parries just do not work. I remember a fight in Battlegrounds where I used Archangel against an easy opponent. I don't remember exactly who it was. Could have been Mr. It was either Mr. Negative or something else, or maybe a Mole Man. But the fact of the matter is, I didn't land a single parry and get KO'd with Archangel against that opponent, because every time I tried to parry, I got hit in the face. And, I'm fully willing and able to accept user error as a reason of getting smacked, but I refuse to believe that 7 years of playing this game even gives me a remote statistical chance of missing parry 5 times in a row. I don't think that can feasibly happen unless I'm unless I'm like completely asleep or but still even then I don't think it's just plausible. There are clearly issues, and more people are coming forward. And whilst obviously we cannot see the data that Kabam can, but there is way more than enough anecdotal evidence to clearly summarize that the game inputs are not fixed. Additionally, what speaks against this entire job done compensation, no more needed point, is that Prematurely released Kabam's email and the way they stopped the compensation in the first place, because they already had this email and message ready basically on the launch of this beta when it became on this new input system. And it already automatically said, due to the positive feedback that we have received from the players, we think the game's fine. And fact of the matter is, players hadn't yet used the new input system to give that positive feedback, which again is not positive at the moment to begin with. But fact of the matter is that it was physically impossible for us to give any positive feedback before Kabam mistakenly sent out that message. Clearly shows and demonstrates that they were not necessarily too tied to reality of the situation in the game. They had basically made an arbitrary decision to stop sending out this compensation regardless of how game performs, which is also the reason why I am fairly skeptical on whether Kabam will or will not restart these compensation packages, even though they 100% should. And unfortunately, right now is exactly the time so many people are experiencing the fallout of this. If you have input issues, Kabam has stopped the compensation, then you have few available options to you. You can A, just quit the game, which unfortunately a lot of people are choosing. B, you can just step down and play the game less competitively, which causes an entire slew of issues for alliances that have been together for a long time, now being unable to recruit at semi-competitive or competitive level, which definitely I have been hearing about more and more, people just being absolutely devastated for their alliances breaking apart. And I do think that in recent history, this is probably the most condensed period of time where large amount of alliances are unfortunately disbanding due to this specific issue. Or obviously you also have an option of C, where you just, instead of subsidizing your item usage with these compensations, use your own resources by unit or money, which a lot of people are unwilling to do, because at this point you kind of feel slighted by the game if you are forced to spend money because of the game issues. Like, there are a lot of people who love this game and who do not mind spending money or have no qualms about, investing X amount of time to grind the units and then spend them, or just flat out, buy some unit packs to get items or whatever is needed to compete with alliances that are, at their respective levels. The problem right here is that you feel that you have to spend this because you're being kind of done over. Like you're being bent over by Kabam without any warning or moisturizer. Because if you don't make a mistake, you get hit in the face, you get KO'd, and you then not have no items which you need to purchase. Again, that is... I can imagine... I don't have to imagine. I know exactly how frustrating it can be. So, in order to summarize this entire issue, I do want to point out the fact that the problems in the game have not gotten better compared to 2 months ago. As far as majority of the players are concerned, they're effectively the same or worse. The one thing that has changed is the compensation has been stopped, which nobody can explain to me reasonably, logically. Right now, none of the Kabam's White Knights, none of the elevated stupidities or whatever kind of clans members he has, that was the right call to make. The entire thing was botched up to begin with the message being sent early and then it not being communicated properly to begin with. But as the new reality sets in, where the game is still broken, you do not get any support from Kabam, well, despite of it anymore, fortunately is making this game pretty much an unhospitable environment for a lot of people, where, again, they are being forced to make decisions that unfortunately hurt their alliances and teammates, and that has a cascading effect. Focusing on game economy and all the in-game issues is obviously an important aspect of the in-game input problems, but I also think that not enough people are focusing on the social aspect and the breakdown of the alliances and teams and the kind of general mood of people in the chat rooms and line chats and the overall perception of the state of the game right now, which is suffering drastically right now. Which I know Kabam is unable to put a direct monetary value on in terms of how much of a loss they are making right now because they have stopped this compensation. But I think the effects of this will become apparent, and it should be very worrisome situation for anybody working at Kabam, and also people who care about this game and who want this game to succeed. And again, here I want to remind everybody that I criticize Kabam not because I like to do it. I criticize Kabam because I want this game to do as well as it can. And if I see a decision that directly harms the player base's relationship with the game, with Kabam, and stunts the growth of the game, then it's also partially because of self-preservation in terms of my YouTube channel, because the worse Kabam does, typically the worse my channel also does. The game goes absolutely tits up. I suffer for it because there are less people interested in watching videos about the game. They're leaving, or they're just unmotivated to invest time. If the game's going great, Kabam's releasing new content or new game mode, or there are exciting things happening, I do better because I can make videos of it. People are interested in these things and they come to watch and enjoy and have a good time overall. And that is why, it's very important to acknowledge that right now, the game is suffering. It has been for a long time with its ups and downs, and we have kind of put it at back of our minds with these input issues for the past year. But within kind of like even reopening this wound or making it worse by taking away the compensation and there appearing to be new input issues, Kabam is clearly making a devastating blow to itself and the overall health of the game and the player base's relationship with Kabam. So I do hope, I do plead that Kabam addresses this publicly. And I'm not saying it has to be compensation restarted back immediately and stuff like that, even though that is what I wish to happen. I want Kabam to actually open a proper dialogue, make a post, what happened, what went wrong, what is happening right now, timeline of expected fix, and whether or not they will resume the compensation for this or that reason. You know, I'm not necessarily screaming from top of my lungs, give me back all my items that you didn't send me last month. I think that's, you know, unrealistic, and I don't think that's necessarily the best thing to do for anyone. But what I do hate to see is Kabam, you know, just having these tiny little posts where they make a comment on it where, oh, AI hasn't changed. Really, no shit. AI has changed. AI definitely has changed. They have started backdrafting better. They have started, you know, doing sidestep intercepts. All of a sudden, at times, they can parry you on the medium combos. Like when we fight Blade now in Eternity of Pain, if you use a champion with double medium hits, they can parry you while you hit their block. That didn't used to happen. You know, there are clear changes happening with AI making AI more adept and more potent, which is, again, a bit different issue, but it is happening, and Kabam isn't openly acknowledging it or making like a proper kind of post or breakdowns of things that have changed. And the problem is that we are in dark here. The problem is that we're driving blind, and we're clearly seeing that Kabam is lying to us face on, or just refusing to address these issues. And again, as a YouTuber that covers this game, it's very painful to see this nonchalant, dismissive attitude from the company that makes the game that we love and hate at the same time. But the reason we hate this game at the same time is them. It's not the game that they have made. It's how they speak to players, how they inform us or don't inform us, how they lie to our faces, the decisions that they make. Whilst it is very easy to justify some of them, you know, there are many of decisions that I might personally disagree or not like, but I can see it, and I think fair enough, you know. They are a company, they need to make money, which is an excuse that I'm always kind of tired of hearing. They can't give free compensation to everybody because they need to make money. Then why did they start it? Why did they start this compensation? Did they they started the compensation because the game was broken and the inputs are broken. Okay. Have the inputs been fixed? No. Has the compensation been stopped? Yes. Why? Because they need to make money. You know, you can't reason with idiots like that, so I don't even try. But at the same time, there are definite decisions that do not help them to make money, in my opinion, and do not help the game in general, that they are consistently making. And this is definitely one of these right now. They were overly eager to cut off that compensation as soon as possible, which probably was, you know, unpredicted that these new issues will arise, because a lot of CCP people said the majority of the input issues were fixed for a brief period of time, but they broke again, and they didn't see this thing breaking. And this is where we see that Kabam pride or refusal to adjust on the fly. Where, you know, fair enough, if the inputs were fixed, like a lot of CCP members have said, and there's no compensation, we wouldn't be having discussion right now. But the fact is that something changed, something broke in the game, and Kabam is unwilling to react to it, admit to it, and, you know, stand in front of their players and explain exactly how this happened, which just makes them look not just incompetent, but also, you know, just petty, little. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this entire input situation and compensation situation, and has it affected your alliance? Because I have been hearing from a lot of people that have been affected. Let me know what you think, and I will catch you guys later. See ya. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the